Welcome, gents. Sometimes healing doesn't look like joy, it looks like peace. Have you ever wondered if you've actually healed, or if you've just learned how to live with the pain? The truth is, real healing rarely announces itself. It doesn't come with fireworks or a sudden feeling of victory. It comes quietly, especially for Sigma males who process their emotions in silence and rebuild themselves away from attention. One of the first signs you've healed more than you realize is when what used to break you no longer controls your emotions. You still remember, but it no longer defines your day. You stop needing explanations, and you start choosing peace over chaos. That's not weakness, that's growth. You also notice you react differently. You don't rush to prove a point or chase closure. You've learned that silence can be more powerful than words. You're more patient, more grounded, and more focused on what adds meaning to your life. Another deep sign is when solitude no longer feels lonely. You find comfort in your own company and no longer seek validation through constant interaction. You become protective of your energy because you've learned how expensive peace can be once lost. Healing isn't always visible, but it changes how you see yourself and the world. If your peace is louder than your pain today, you've healed more than you think. Stay on that path. It's where the strongest version of you is being built. Let's get started, gents. Number 1, they don't chase moments, they collect meanings. Have you ever met someone who doesn't rush through life chasing one thrill after another, but instead moves with a quiet purpose? That's the old-souled man. He doesn't chase moments, he collects meanings. While most people are out there trying to fill their days with excitement, he's searching for something that actually matters. Every conversation, every connection, every silence carries weight. He's not interested in surface-level living. He wants depth. When others jump from one experience to another just to feel alive, the old-souled man pauses to ask why. Why am I here? What does this mean? What am I learning? He'd rather have one genuine conversation than 1,000 empty ones. He values a talk that stretches the mind and stirs the heart more than a night of shallow laughter. If you've ever seen a man who listens deeply when you speak, who notices what you didn't say, that's him. He's not collecting memories for show. He's collecting lessons that shape his soul. For example, while others might post pictures of sunsets just for likes, he'll stand there quietly, letting the moment teach him something about peace and time. He doesn't need to broadcast his joy because he's busy understanding it. When he reads, he doesn't just flip pages. He looks for lines that change how he sees life. When he loves, it's not for attention, it's for connection. You'll never catch him chasing temporary highs or trying to impress a crowd. He knows the thrill fades, but meaning lasts. That's why he chooses conversations that challenge him, relationships that grow him, and moments that feed his spirit. He's not afraid to walk away from noise, because silence helps him hear what truly matters. To him, every glance, every word, every pause is an opportunity to find something real. That's the quiet beauty of an old-souled man. He doesn't live fast, he lives deep. Number 2, they age through experience, not through years. Have you ever met someone who seems wiser than their age? Someone who carries themselves with the calm of a man who's lived several lives already? That's the mark of an old-souled man. They age through experience, not through years. Their wisdom doesn't come from counting birthdays, but from what life has taken, taught, and reshaped within them. While most people measure growth by how old they've become, an old-souled man measures it by what he's survived. He's learned more from heartbreak than from books, more from silence than from noise, and more from loss than from victory. When you look into his eyes, you can almost see the weight of lessons learned the hard way. He's been bruised by life, but he carries those bruises like medals, reminders that pain was once his teacher. For example, a younger man might see failure as an ending, but the old-souled man sees it as a conversation with life. When something falls apart, he asks what it came to reveal. When someone betrays him, he doesn't grow bitter, he grows alert. Experience has trained him to listen to what pain is trying to say, rather than run from it. He doesn't need to talk much about his wisdom, because it shows in how he reacts. When chaos hits, he doesn't panic, he pauses. When others rush to judge, he tries to understand. That quiet maturity didn't come from age, it came from endurance. He's been humbled by disappointment, sharpened by solitude, and softened by compassion. That's why he rarely looks for validation. He knows what it's like to lose everything and rebuild from the ground up. He's seen how fragile everything can be, so he cherishes what lasts: peace, loyalty, purpose, and truth. So when you see a man whose calm feels older than his face, remember this: he hasn't just lived through time, he's learned from it. His soul grew wiser every time life tested him, and that's a kind of aging no number can measure. Number 3, they see beauty in brokenness. Have you ever met someone who doesn't turn away from what's broken but looks closer, almost as if they see something the rest of us can't? That's how old-souled men see the world. They see beauty in brokenness. While others try to hide their cracks and cover their scars, these men see them as proof that life was lived fully. They find depth in scars, stories in struggles, and poetry in pain. To them, imperfection isn't something to fix, it's something to understand. They know that a smooth surface tells no story. A man who has never been broken has never truly lived. The old-souled man doesn't admire perfection. He admires resilience. He finds beauty in the woman who has been through heartbreak but still loves deeply. He respects the friend who has failed, yet tries again with quiet courage. To him, pain isn't something to be ashamed of. It's a language of growth. For example, if he walks into an old house with cracks on the walls and faded paint, he doesn't see neglect, he sees history. He wonders who laughed there, who cried there, and what moments those walls have witnessed. The same way, when he meets people, he looks beyond their smiles to see what shaped them. He listens for the story behind their silence. He understands that beauty without struggle is empty. It's the struggle that gives things meaning. A scar, to him, isn't damage. It's evidence that healing happened. That's why he's drawn to authenticity. He feels more at home with people who are real, not perfect. Old-souled men carry a rare kind of tenderness. They don't pity brokenness, they honor it, because they've learned that everything cracked by pain has also been touched by strength. They see beauty not in what was never hurt, but in what was hurt and still found a way to rise. Number 4, they sense energy before they see faces. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt something was off before anyone even said a word? That quiet awareness is something old-souled men live with every day. They sense energy before they see faces. They can feel someone's intention long before words are spoken. Their intuition doesn't just observe, it listens, it studies, and it remembers. While most people rely on appearances, they rely on energy. Old-souled men are masters of emotional awareness. They notice the way a person's tone wavers when they lie, or how their eyes avoid certain truths. They sense when someone's smile hides exhaustion, or when confidence is just a mask for insecurity. It's not about suspicion, it's about sensitivity. Their intuition reads rooms better than their eyes do, because they've learned that what's unseen often speaks louder than what's visible. For example, when everyone else is charmed by someone's confidence, the old-souled man might sense the subtle tension behind that charm. He feels when something doesn't align, even if it looks perfect on the surface. He can walk into a group and immediately know who's genuine, who's pretending, and who's silently struggling. This gift often makes him quiet because he doesn't need to compete for space. He already understands what's happening beneath the noise. He's the kind of man who trusts vibes more than explanations. If someone's energy feels off, no amount of words can convince him otherwise. It's not arrogance, it's awareness born from experience. He's been deceived before, and those experiences taught him that energy never lies. That's why old-souled men often choose their circle carefully. They value peace over popularity and authenticity over attention. Their intuition protects them from chaos and helps them move through life with grace. They don't need to see everything to understand it. They simply feel it, and that's their quiet superpower. Number 5. They love in a way that heals, not entertains. Have you ever met someone who doesn't just love you for how you make them feel, but for who you truly are, even in your unpolished moments? That's how old-souled men love. They love in a way that heals, not entertains. When they care, it's never about thrill or excitement. It's about restoration. They don't show up to be amused. They show up to understand, to listen, and to remind you that gentle love still exists in a world that often confuses attention with affection. Their kind of love isn't loud. It doesn't need grand gestures or constant validation. It shows up in small, consistent ways that slowly rebuild what life has broken. When they love, they don't rush to fix you. They sit with you while you learn to fix yourself. They don't judge your scars. They trace them gently, as if to say, "You're safe here." For example, if someone they care about is hurting, they won't offer shallow comfort or empty words. They'll stay present, sometimes in silence, because they know that peace is often louder than advice. They'll remind you to breathe, to eat, to rest. They'll notice the things you no longer talk about and offer love in the spaces where words fail. This kind of love doesn't fade when the excitement ends. It deepens. It grows roots. It isn't about butterflies. It's about building something that still stands when life gets hard. Old-souled men believe love should make you softer, not anxious, stronger, not dependent. Their love teaches you that healing is not about forgetting your pain, but learning that you are more than it. They become a safe place in a noisy world, a reminder that real love doesn't drain you, it restores you. And that kind of love, once experienced, changes everything. Number 6. They live as observers of their own generation. Have you ever met someone who seems to exist in this world but never quite fits into it? Someone who moves through their generation with calm detachment, as if they are both part of it and apart from it? That's the old-souled man. He lives as an observer of his own generation. He moves within his time, but never fully belongs to it. While everyone rushes to keep up with what's trending, he quietly stands back, watching it all unfold like a spectator at a show he's already seen before. He understands the rhythm of his generation, but he doesn't dance to its beat. When everyone is chasing attention, he's chasing purpose. When others are obsessed with being seen, he's focused on understanding himself. He doesn't reject his time out of pride, but out of clarity. He sees how fast everything changes, ideas, values, loyalties, and he chooses not to anchor his identity to things that will fade tomorrow. For example, while most people might measure their worth through likes and followers, he measures his through peace of mind and self-respect. When others get lost in the noise of trends, he listens for truth in the silence. He could join the crowd easily if he wanted to, but he doesn't find fulfillment in imitation. He values substance over spectacle. Being an observer allows him to see what many overlook. He notices how quickly people trade authenticity for acceptance, how society rewards noise more than wisdom, and how few truly think for themselves. That awareness gives him a quiet strength. He doesn't need to shout to be heard. His presence speaks through his calm. Old-souled men are like time travelers trapped in a world that moves too fast for their liking. They live in the present, but carry the values of a slower, wiser age. While the world runs in circles, they walk with intention, knowing that belonging to yourself is far more powerful than belonging to any trend. Number 7. They move through life quietly, but leave deep impressions. Have you ever known someone who doesn't say much, yet somehow changes the entire atmosphere just by being there? That's the old-souled man. He moves through life quietly, but leaves deep impressions. He doesn't crave attention or try to make noise to be noticed. His presence speaks through energy, through stillness, through how he makes people feel. And though he never announces himself, his absence is always felt. He's the kind of man who listens more than he talks. When he does speak, his words carry weight because they come from reflection, not impulse. He's not interested in being the loudest voice in the room. He's interested in being the one who speaks truth when it matters, and that's why people remember him. His influence isn't built on charm or showmanship. It's built on authenticity. For example, in a group where everyone is trying to dominate the conversation, he's the one sitting back, quietly reading the room. But when he finally says something, the room goes still because people can feel the difference between noise and wisdom. He has that quiet authority that doesn't demand respect. It earns it. Even in relationships, he leaves a mark that time struggles to erase. He may not shower people with constant attention, but his loyalty, depth, and honesty create memories that linger. When he walks away, the silence he leaves behind feels different, almost like a missing heartbeat. The beauty of his presence is that it never tries to impress. He connects through sincerity, not performance. He moves through life with quiet strength, often misunderstood by those who mistake gentleness for weakness. Yet those who truly see him know his silence holds more meaning than most people's speeches. Old-souled men prove that impact doesn't come from volume, it comes from depth. They remind us that the loudest people may be heard, but the quiet ones are the ones who are never forgotten. Number 8. They measure people by depth, not display. Have you ever met someone who doesn't get impressed by fancy words, loud confidence, or polished appearances? Someone who sees straight through the show and looks for what's real underneath? That's the old-souled man. He measures people by depth, not display. He's not moved by charm or noise because he knows how easily both can be faked. What catches his attention isn't how people present themselves, but how they carry truth in silence. He looks for calm minds and genuine hearts. He's learned that some of the loudest people have the emptiest souls, and some of the quietest hold entire worlds inside them. That's why he doesn't fall for the spotlight. He studies what's behind it. When he meets someone, he pays attention to how they treat others, how they react when they're ignored, and how they handle being wrong. Those small moments tell him more about a person's spirit than any speech ever could. For example, when everyone in the room is drawn to the most charming person, he's the one observing the quiet one in the corner, the one who listens with sincerity instead of waiting to talk. He values the kind of person who doesn't need to impress because they already live in truth. Old-souled men are drawn to realness, not performance. They find beauty in humility, strength in honesty, and wisdom in restraint. You can't win them over with glitter because they see beyond the surface. They crave depth, conversations that challenge the mind, emotions that feel safe, and connections that grow instead of drain. That's why they move differently. They'd rather walk alone than surround themselves with shallow company. Their peace matters more than popularity. To them, depth is where loyalty, kindness, and understanding live. And once they find that in someone, they hold it close, because they know it's rare in a world that keeps chasing the spotlight. Number 9. They sense endings before they happen. Have you ever met someone who seems to know when something is about to end, even before it does? Someone who doesn't need a grand goodbye to understand that a chapter is closing. That's the old-souled man. He senses endings before they happen. His awareness catches patterns others ignore, and that's why goodbyes rarely surprise him. He reads silence like language, and subtle distance like truth. He notices the small shifts that most people overlook, the slower replies, the fading warmth, the slight change in energy that says more than words ever could. While others are still hoping things will go back to how they were, he's already making peace with the reality that they won't. It's not that he's cold, it's that experience has trained him to recognize when something has run its course. For example, in relationships, he can feel when love is losing its rhythm. The laughter sounds a little forced, the conversations start feeling like effort, and the spark that once felt natural now feels rehearsed. He doesn't fight what's fading, he quietly accepts it. That acceptance doesn't mean he doesn't care. It means he understands that holding on too tightly can destroy what's left of something once beautiful. Old-souled men understand that life is a series of arrivals and departures. People come, teach, love, hurt, and then leave, sometimes without warning. But instead of resenting the ending, he looks for the lesson. He knows that every closure creates space for new growth. That's why he grieves privately, but lets go gracefully. His calmness during endings isn't indifference, it's wisdom. He's learned that not every ending needs anger, and not every goodbye needs closure. Some things are simply meant to fade, and while the world struggles to accept that truth, he stands grounded, already knowing that some endings are not losses, they're quiet beginnings in disguise. Number 10. They carry nostalgia for things they've never lived. Have you ever met someone who feels a strange longing for a time they never lived in? Someone who listens to an old song or looks at a black and white photo and feels a pull in their chest, as if a forgotten part of them once belonged there. That's the old-souled man. He carries nostalgia for things he's never lived. Sometimes he misses eras, songs, or values that existed long before he was born. It's as if his soul remembers what his body never saw. He finds peace in things that move slowly, in conversations that mean something, in music that feels like it was written from the heart rather than for attention. When he listens to an old record, he doesn't just hear the melody, he feels the honesty behind every note. When he reads a letter from decades ago, he's reminded that love once had patience and words once had weight. For example, while most people scroll through life searching for the next distraction, he might spend an evening sitting by the window, listening to a song from the 70s, wondering what it was like to live in a time when people truly showed up for one another. He craves that kind of authenticity. He admires the days when promises meant something and presence wasn't rare. This deep nostalgia isn't about wishing to escape the present. It's about recognizing what's been lost, the warmth, the depth, the sincerity that once shaped human connection. His heart mourns the beauty of values that time has traded for speed. Old soul men live with that quiet ache, yet they carry it beautifully. They bring the grace of the past into the noise of the present. In a world obsessed with what's next, they remind us of what once mattered. Their nostalgia isn't weakness, it's wisdom from a soul that remembers the kind of humanity the world is slowly forgetting. In final words, sometimes the loudest sign of healing is how quiet your heart has become. Have you noticed that you no longer react to what once shattered your peace? That you no longer chase closure, revenge, or recognition from the ones who hurt you? That's growth, even if it doesn't feel dramatic. Healing rarely announces itself. It reveals itself in your calm. especially for Sigma males, whose strength often hides behind silence and observation. The truth is, healing doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means the memory no longer has power over you. You've stopped trying to prove your worth, because you finally understand it was never up for debate. You've learned to let people go without resentment, and to love yourself enough not to beg for the same pain twice. That quiet acceptance is a deeper kind of freedom. You now choose peace over noise, patience over pride, and reflection over reaction. That shift in energy isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You no longer seek to control outcomes because you've learned that peace comes from surrender, not resistance. Healing doesn't make you untouchable. It makes you self-aware. It teaches you how to protect your energy without closing your heart. It shows you that solitude can feel like safety, not punishment. So if your world feels calmer these days, if your silence feels stronger, and if your heart feels lighter, even without everything being perfect, that's your sign. You've healed more than you realize, and that kind of healing, the quiet, humble kind, is what transforms pain into power. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.